I literally had to restart my computer in order for me to get a clear image because my camera on my computer was not working. What are the odds? I'm so desperate for funny intros. What is up, guys? It's Man Chief Fan here. Welcome back to another video. And today we're going to be doing a very important video. I know I should really save this for the end of the year, but you know, it's close enough. It's December 4th, but at the same time, I feel confident with the books that I have read and what I'm currently, like, the books I read and gave a 5 out of 5 to, so I feel confident in making my official top 10 books of 2016. Now, of course, this isn't books that are released in 2016, even though this was an amazing year in new releases. I do think that this year is easily my best reading year, period. It was unbelievably good. And I read about, like, 15 to 25 star rated books, and that is a lot, I know, but at the same time, I save them for the best of the best, and I felt like I just came across so many that were just the best of the best this year. So, you know what, I'm making this video right now. I know it's kind of early, but hey, sometimes you gotta be confident with your choices, and I feel really confident with my choices. Now, before I go into the video and the actual choices, I just want to say that these books are extremely different from the books that, okay, so, like, 1, 2, no, alright, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 books are brand new to the list, and the 3 that are not new, like, they were on the halfway mark that I made in, like, June or July, they're in completely different spots, hands down. So anyway, these are the books that I just aren't really the best, but are just my personal favorites, and because I'll explain why. So anyway, enough chit-chat, let's get into it. Alright, so the first book is a hands down one. I thought this was actually lower in my list in the, in my halfway mark, but it just left such an impact on me as a reader, and it was my first 5-star rating of 2016 that I thought, hey, let's just add it in here because it's such an impactful book to me, and that is Fahrenheit 451 by Ray Bradbury. I know this is a very cliche choice. In fact, a lot of these are pretty cliche, but, you know, this is just an amazing book. It's one of the greatest dystopians, if not the greatest dystopian novel ever written, unless if 1984 is as amazing as I remember in my hunt for my favorite book that I'm doing next year. But as of right now, I think I'm going to share the title with 1984 because this is truly excellent. If you don't know what this book is about, then what are you doing? You've got to get out of here and read this book right now. It's pretty much where books are banned and they're burned, and anybody who owns books are burned, and it's about this guy named Montag who finds the importance of books. And it is truly wonderful. I cannot recommend this book enough. At first I thought my light was off. But Fahrenheit 451, it's a masterpiece. I know it's cliched to call it a masterpiece, but it truly is wonderful. The next book that I have is a memoir, and that is Angela's Ashes by Frank McCourt. The first memoir that I had on this list was The Glass Castle by Jeanette Walls, and don't get me wrong, I still love that book. It's still at a 5 out of 5 stars, but I just think that this one just made so much more of an impact on me, and just made me interested in a whole new genre, like, country of literature, which is Irish literature. Even though I'm not the biggest fan of, like, James Joyce, I found my new favorite poet through this book, and that is W.B. Yeats. And he's just wonderful, and Frank McCourt is absolutely wonderful as well. This is pretty much just Frank McCourt's childhood story of living in poverty, and it's so well done, so dark and depressing, yet it also can be really funny at some points, really dark type of humor as well, which is up my alley. So Angela's Ashes is easily the greatest memoir I've ever read. Nothing comes close. Well, The Glass Castle does come close, but this one just takes the cake, if you ask me. So Angela's Ashes by Frank McCourt is an easy spot for number 9. Okay, so number 8. I originally had this to be number 1, and it critically is number 2 or number 1, but favorite-wise, I don't think it just made that much of an impact, as big as an impact as the next 7, but still, it's a masterpiece, and I still consider it the great British novel, Bleak House by Charles Dickens. Charles Dickens is a master in every way, shape, and form, and he just and he just nailed it with this book. This centers around a court case, and it centers around a young woman named Esther Summerson and her adventures through a place called Bleak House. If I was to say anything more, that would be spoiler territory. I'm not even joking. That's how dense this book is. But this is a book you really have to read to get to the picture of. You can't just read the synopsis and expect, hey, I know something about this book going in. You don't know jack squat about going when you go into this book. It's so wonderful, yet it's really densely written, but in the good way, because there's so much packed into single pages, and it's just wonderful. There's so many characters to this book that it makes your head spin, and it's amazing. I truly love it. I can't really say much because I made a whole review about this book, so if you want to check that out, I will probably leave it in the description below. So, yeah, Bleak House by Charles Dickens. It's a masterpiece. What else do I have to say? Number 7 is my favorite play of all time. It used to be Waiting for Godot, but then it became Hamlet by William Shakespeare. Easily a masterpiece in the art of theater. It may be the masterpiece in theater. And I don't think any play and unlike Angela's Ashes with memoirs, I think some memoirs, the Glass Castle comes close to Angela's Ashes. There's no play, not even by Shakespeare, that comes close to this. That comes to the complexity and the themes and the characters that this play brings up. There is no competition whatsoever. There's ones that can stand in the same ballpark, but they will all strike out in terms of while this one scores a home run. This is about the Prince of Denmark, and after his father dies, he gets suspicious about the new king, and he tries to kill him. That's pretty much what the book is. That's pretty much what the play is about. If you don't know what Hamlet is, you're lying. If you know the phrase "to be or not to be," then you know what Hamlet is, because that's probably the most quoted line. I actually read that somewhere that was the most quoted line in all of literature. Like, the most quotable quote, or the most used quote of all time. And well-deserving, because that whole monologue was just brilliant. I wish I had that memorized for you guys, but all I have is to be or not to be. That is the question, like every single human being on this earth. So, Hamlet, what else do I have to say? It's brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. Alright, the next book is is a strange example. No, sorry, it's not a strange example, because it's East of Eden by John Steinbeck. What I was meaning to say about this book is that this captures why the family saga is my favorite book of all. It's like my favorite type of story. This is about a man named Adam Trask who moves to California and establishes himself as the founder of like this village called in the Salinas Valley. And it kind of mirrors the book of Genesis, and it does it brilliantly. I've never read the book of Genesis because I'm not the most religious person in the world, but John Steinbeck just absolutely nailed it with this book. I wasn't really going into it with looking for the religious symbolism. I was more going into it expecting a fantastic story with unbelievable characters and brilliant writing. That is exactly what I got. The twins that are in this book, Cal and Aaron, I think it's their name. Yeah, Cal and Aaron. They are two of the most unique characters I've ever seen in my entire life. They will stick with me forever. And the story of this book just blew me away. It sucked me in for 2 whole days where I just could not stop reading this. Seriously, I read this in 2 days, and it was so wonderful, so brilliant. I cannot recommend this book enough because it is just a masterpiece. I know I keep repeating myself with this, but all these books in this from here on out, and concluding Hamlet, Bleak, and Bleak House, are all masterpieces. Like, straight up masterpieces. So, East of Eden, I cannot recommend this book enough because, like I said, it's a masterpiece. I feel sorry for you guys because you keep handling with my repetition. Okay, so next up is a book that I think is the most strange out of this pile. This is gonna blow people away. Like, Graham, did you give this a 3.5 out of 5? Well, yes, I did originally. Then I figured out what the author was really trying to say, and now it's one of my favorite books of all time, and it's going in the pile of books I'm going to reread in 2017 for the challenge of becoming my favorite book. I'm not even joking. And that is Donna Tartt's The Secret History. This is not my bookmark. Don't worry, I'm not that shortened. That's actually my mom's bookmark because I'm having her read this book because I love it that much. Hi, Mom, if you're watching this. So, Donna Tartt's The Secret History is about this man named Richard. And he is, like, this Greek enthusiast, and he goes to this, like, upscale New England university, and he is set up with, like, a whole ton of these, like, kids with this same passion as him for Greek philosophy and just Greek culture as well. And then things happen. I will not say what happens, but let's just say it gets dark. And the reason why I originally didn't think this book was as brilliant as I think it is now is because there was points where I thought this book was really pretentious, but that's the point. You're not supposed to like these characters at all. You're supposed to think these are horrible characters, but at the same time, I do think that a couple of them are tolerable, but at the same time, they're just so brilliantly well written that I have to applaud Donna Tartt for it. Because this is just one of the most well-written books I have ever read. Like, seriously, the way the story is structured just had me gripped at the second half, which is normally the point where authors are like, yeah, I'll just see what I can do here. Donna Tartt, like, the second half is easily better than the first half. I will be dead honest. Even though the first half is brilliant setup for what is going to happen in the second half, though it's not all setup, which is something that I hate in books, but don't worry, this is not it. It's just more of a setup than the second half is. It's the rising action of the story. But The Secret History, it's just one of those books that just, it doesn't blow you away the first time, but it just gradually leaches on you more and more and more, which I'm finding more books to be that way, like A Confederacy of Dunces by John Kennedy Toole, and of course this one. But this one just idolizes why I adore contemporary fiction, and it's why it's my new favorite genre of all time. And Donna Tartt is one of my new favorite authors of all time, so yeah, the Secret History is a masterpiece. It truly is a modern masterpiece. Number 4 is easily, hold on, I gotta move things around real quick. Alright, there we go. Number 4 is not a contemporary fiction book at all. It's a straight-up classic, and it's this. Crime and Punishment by Fyodor Dostoevsky, which, in my opinion, is the ultimate thriller. This is the ultimate thriller book. If there's, like, one book that I'm gonna say, oh yeah, that's the great thriller novel, it's gonna be Crime and Punishment. Raskolnikov is one of the most deep and philosophical and most strangely intellectual, mentally intellectual characters I have ever read in my entire life. He just hooked me in right there, and the ways that he just goes about with his life through this book is really haunting, and the things that happen in this book are really haunting. This book just blew me away. Unlike The Secret History, where it took me a while to really let me sink in, this one just, once I got hooked, there was no stopping me. I seriously could not put this thing down. It's another book that I finished in 2 days, despite its density. So, I really have nothing else to say. Crime and Punishment is one of the most famous novels of all time. If you're a literary, like, enthusiast like I am, you have heard of Crime and Punishment. So, Fyodor Dostoevsky is one of the masters, and of course, Crime and Punishment is amazing. Number 3 is another book that at first I loved this book from the beginning, but not to this point now. It's going, The Secret History, it's going into the mix of books I'm going to reread next year from search for my favorite book, and that is Middlesex by Jeffrey Eugenides. If you're going to ask me who I like better, Jeffrey Eugenides or Donna Tartt, despite Donna Tartt making the actually, I can't answer that now because the Goldfinch blew me away and gave it a 5 out of 5, but I just feel like Jeffrey Eugenides sticks with you more. This is about a boy or girl, if you want to call it either, named Cal, and she or he, I really can't pronounce it because this is because I'm gonna say it right now, but it's transgender. That sounds really offensive, but Cal was born as a boy, and then she's born as a girl and then turns into a boy. Sorry, I totally blanked out right there. but Middlesex is easily the greatest LGBTQ book of all time. There's, like, no competition from what I've read so far, though I haven't read Confessions of a Mask by Yukio Mishima, which I've heard is absolutely fantastic. But Middlesex by Jeffrey Eugenides is one of those books that I remember zipping through, but I don't remember every single detail like all of the rest of these books, even though I absolutely adore it. I remember the majority of the story, what happens, the characters. I remember loving the character of Milton. I thought he was fantastic. And I also loved the grandmother. The grandmother was just badass, if you want to ask me. But, Middlesex is just one of those books I can't... If you're going to tell me what happens on page 329, I'm going to be like, I don't know, but... Yeah, Jeffrey Eugenides, it won the Pulitzer for a reason, because this is truly amazing. Number 2 is a book that I've just seen loads of people hate on recently. Like, one of my best friends, like, she doesn't do BookTube anymore, but Al from The Bookish Bastard, she didn't like this book nearly at all. And that was Extremely Loud and Incredibly Close by Jonathan Safran Foer. Oscar. Oscar, 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 Oscar. He wins the title for my favorite character of 2016. And unlike The Catcher in the Rye, this book has so much more to offer than him. He just is the tip... No, he's not the tip of the iceberg. He's the bulk of the iceberg. But at the same time, there's a fantastic story going on that overall, like, grabs you along the way. There's other really interesting characters, like a grandmother that just cannot care less, and a mother. And there's just so much detail into this book, and the writing style is unique and wonderful. Even people who say they hate this book at least got their attentions captured by its writing, and for good reasons, because it is truly wonderfully written. And it's also told with a lot of pictures in it, and I know that kind of gets people annoyed at some points. But it does interest you at the very least. Even if you end up hating this book, this is just one of those books that you really just can't keep your eyes off of. Because it just is wonderful. And honestly, even with Oscar, it's still a fantastic book. It's just Oscar makes it a masterpiece. So, Extremely Loud and Incredibly Close by Jonathan Safran Foer. Jonathan Safran Foer is one of my new favorite authors. I've read all of his works already because he's another one of those authors that doesn't write often. Hello, darkness, my old friend. I absolutely love this book, and I cannot recommend it enough. I mean, it's Extremely Loud and Incredibly Close. It's one of the greatest novels I've ever read. And then finally, we have number 1. This, I really should have put this at number 1. I think I put this at number 1, but I'm really not sure. But after... Like, did I put this at number 1 on my halfway mark video? But, when I was going through this video, I originally had Bleak House at number 1. I even had Extremely Loud and Incredibly Close at number 1 at one point. But, if you're asking me, maybe it's because I studied this book. But, it truly is the book that made the most impact me all year. And this is the one that nearly brought me to... That nearly brought me to tears, or also Flowers for Algernon, but this one made it more often than Flowers for Algernon, which was a close runner for number 10. But it's To Kill a Mockingbird by Harper Lee. There is no competition whatsoever for this book being number 1 on this list. And in fact, it's my 3rd favorite book of all time. It is truly wonderful. I mean, the Finches, Tom Robinson, even Mr. Ewell just made such a major impact on me. Like, this has the best... While Extremely Loud and Incredibly Close, Oscar is the best single character of the year, this is the best character cast ever. Ever, ever, ever. Like, there isn't just, like, one significant character, like Oscar and Holden, or Dorian, from Picture of Dorian Gray. This just... does everything. It does everything that you want in a novel. It does it with near perfection. It really comes full circle at the end, and it's just beautifully told. Like, this is like like, if it wasn't for Moby Dick by Herman Melville, this would be the great American novel, in my opinion. It truly is a spectacular achievement by an author who rarely wrote wrote next to nothing. And kind of a shame, but at the same time, it's her life. I don't want to judge her. Plus, now she's dead, so there's really no point. But To Kill a Mockingbird by Harper Lee is truly the masterpiece of 2016 for me. So, To Kill a Mockingbird, I hope you guys can see it. You are the masterpiece of 2016. You are the greatest book I've read all year, and it is my third favorite book of all time. What do you have to say? Okay then, have fun. So that was the video, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed. Comment down below on what you guys thought on the video, and what are your favorite books of 2016? I want to know. So anyway, I'm Mega Man Chief Fan, and I'll see you later, guys.